No device connected.
So good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us this morning. We are very pleased to welcome you at our webinar relating to profit sharing and new legal obligation for companies in 2025. As a quick introduction, I am Maëlys Tixier. I am an employment law and HR lawyer working at a Grant Thornton law firm for more than 12 years now, and I will let my colleagues introduce themselves as well.
Hello everyone, I'm Théo Vaillard. I'm in charge of the international payroll team in GT France, mainly dealing with foreign entities without permanent establishment in France and employing staff and subsidiaries of larger groups. I'm in the firm since 2 years, and I'm in the payroll field, international payroll field, since 17 years.
Hello, I'm Laura Guidea. I'm Director and Head of Payroll and Advisory Services. Our clients are both French and foreign companies with a very wide range of activities. I am with Grant Thornton since 2017 and in the payroll since 2005.
And hi, I'm Jeremy. Nice to meet you all. I'm International Business Manager at MIA Assurance. We're a broker specialized in employee benefits, and I'll be talking to you today at the end of this presentation to mainly address the topics on savings plans in order to explain to you how these vehicles of profit sharing are to be set up and the management of these plans moving forward as partner at Grant Thornton today.
So after a short presentation of our different practices, we will talk about the value sharing law with the different existing mechanisms, their benefits, notably linked to tax exemptions, and also disadvantages. And as Jeremy said, he will deepen the topic related to savings plan afterwards. So the matter can appear quite complex at first, especially for non-French nationals. We all know that French law is not the simplest existing regulations, but be reassured, today we will focus on the main important points for you to know, so you will be able to implement then the mechanism that suits you the best. And of course, we are at your disposal to assist if needed. Just a precision, if you have any question during the presentation, do not hesitate to write them in the dedicated chat, and after the presentation, we will be able to address them.
So let's introduce Grant Thornton in France. So here is some general information about our firm in France. You see the total revenue, 24 offices and 2,800 employees and 155 partners in the firm in total in France. If we focus on our service line, you can see that we provide mainly 6 fields of activity, which are audit and assurance, accounting and advisory services, operational advisory and outsourcing, legal and tax advisory services, deal advisory, and sustainable transformation services. I'll let you a few moments if you want to read a bit of the subtitles for each main activity, and then I'll move to the next slide, just to so that you can see our offices in France. We have 24 offices, well represented in France in all regions. Okay, and that's it for the presentation of Grant Thornton.
So Grant Thornton Société d'Avocats, the law firm that belongs to the network of Grant Thornton, is a law firm, multidisciplinary law firm that intervenes both in national and international context for our clients. And we offer a various panel of services and expertise in tax, in corporate, private equity, global mobility, IP and IT law, commercial law, and of course, employment law and HR engineering. We currently have 9 partners in the firm and employed approximately 60 people. And we are located in Paris, but we recently opened in the north of France and also in Toulouse.
And so as Mi Assurance, so as I mentioned quickly in the beginning, we are an independent broker. We're based in Paris, and we're very specialized in employee benefits, mainly for foreign firms that have a subsidiary in France of small to medium size. The idea is that we try to find the best solutions on the market and negotiate with the insurers and the TPAs and the providers to get all the possible items of the employee benefits. In France, it's a pretty comprehensive approach with some items that I'll be discussing right away after this slide. We've been on the market for 30 years, and we are considered as a pretty small team. On the other hand, we have roughly 1,500 clients, so we are definitely dedicated to making sure that we get the best service possible for these clients moving forward, with the specialization and also making sure that clients will always get a solution whatever the headquarters are based from. Also, wherever the employees are going, if they're in mobility or if they are in France, there will be a solution for us to provide to the teams and to the companies. We have 9 languages spoken at the team and 20 members of staff at this time. And so mainly doing medical, life, and disability as our main driver of business, because it's compulsory in France to provide these 2 benefits most of the time. Then we have profit sharing and savings plans. So this is what we will be discussing today following this new regulation that just was passed in 2024. Mobility, so expats, seconded employees, short-term assignments, we are able to cover these people also for medical, life, disability assistance abroad, and business travel. Supplemental pension is probably the next biggest trend also in France with profit sharing, because we've had a pretty big reform lately in France about our national scheme of pension. And so companies are more and more having a close look at setting up defined contribution plans in France. And we are also able to provide multiple different ad hoc types of services like unemployment for directors and some other items that are a bit more secondary. And so our approach is very comprehensive. We can basically tackle any topic related to employee benefits for companies wherever they're based.
So let's move on the profit sharing law now. If you are a bit familiar with the French news, you'll know that the question of profit sharing is actually at the center of all attentions currently in France, with the fight to preserve purchasing power, the pension reform, and the announcement of record performance for large companies. So profit sharing French regime has been completely reviewed for the last couple of years in order to adapt it to current stakes for companies and also employees. So first, we had a national interprofessional agreement that was adopted on February 2023, which was part of the extension of the law on purchasing power of August 2022, adapted further to the COVID-19 crisis and also the Yellow Jackets crisis. And then you have the law of November 2023 that transports several measures aimed at bridging the gap between labor and capital within companies. And then finally, the law has been complemented by 2 decrees dated June and July 2024. So the new legislation introduces unprecedented obligations on an experimental basis for 5 years, but also leaves a certain flexibility to companies in the choice of the measures to be implemented. And it's important to note that while there are no sanctions in place for now, This opportunity to adopt a flexible and adapted framework won't last indefinitely. So anticipating profit sharing now in your companies is strategic before a more rigid generalization. So since December 2023, profit sharing mechanisms have been simplified and generalized. And the aim really is to encourage the implementation of profit sharing in the largest number of companies, whatever the size and profit, basically. So depending on your company's workforce threshold, we present you below the mandatory and optional measures that apply to you. So first, you have the mandatory profit sharing mechanisms, and these are the new obligations in force since this January 2025. So regarding companies employing between 11 and 49 employees with a certain level of a net tax profit, these companies must now implement one of the 4 mechanisms of profit sharing existing. So first, you have the profit sharing bonus, what we called in French participation, which is mandatory actually in companies with 50 employees. And it's a strict scheme. The framework is provided by law, and especially the formula to calculate the bonus. Then you have the performance-based bonus, what we call intéressement, which is a voluntary scheme and more flexible scheme also. Then in third, you have the matching contributions in employee savings plans. And last but not least, you have the value sharing bonus, what we call the PPV in France. And this is a more cash system than a real profit sharing mechanism, the value sharing bonus. But anyway, we will come back more in detail in this on these 4 schemes afterwards. And regarding companies with 50 employees and more that have a union delegate, these companies must now negotiate on the definition of the exceptional profits that will lead to the implementation of an additional profit sharing system that we call a supplement. And then regarding optional measures resulting from the new law, you have one major innovation actually regarding companies with less than 50 employees, because for these companies, they have the possibility to negotiate in the profit sharing bonus agreement a formula that is less favorable than the legal formula. So with this system, in the end, employees would have a smaller bonus than the one that they would have had with the legal formula, with the classic regime, in other words. And once again, the idea here is really to facilitate and encourage the development of profit sharing bonus in medium and small companies. And for all companies, the optional measures resulting from the law, for instance, you have the possibility to pay 2 value sharing bonuses during the same year. You also have the possibility to pay profit sharing and performance-based bonuses advances, and also, for instance, the possibility to allocate part of the sums from savings plan to labeled fund for the financing of the energy or ecological transition. So here on this slide, you have a summary of profit sharing new obligations for companies, depending on their workforce. And just a short note to be clear, regarding companies with less than 11 employees, these companies are not subject to the obligation to set up a profit sharing scheme. However, they can implement one, but that will be on a voluntary basis. Let's focus now on the new obligations for companies with 11 to 49 employees. So since this January in 2025, the law makes it mandatory for more than 170,000 companies in France to set up a profit sharing scheme of their choice. So as I said earlier, there is a profit sharing bonus that will be implemented on a voluntary basis for these companies. So participation, the performance-based bonus, intéressement, matching contributions, and value sharing bonus, PPV. But this new obligation is subject to two conditions. So first, you have a staffing condition set at 11 employees up to 49 employees. One important thing to know regarding the staffing condition. I explained earlier that the profit sharing bonus, so participation, was mandatory in companies with more than 50 employees. However, when it reaches 50 employees, a company is not yet subject to the obligation to set up a profit sharing bonus. For that, the company must have reached the threshold of 50 employees over 5 years. So, are also concerned by the obligation regarding companies with 11 to 49 employees, the companies with 50 employees, but for less than 5 years. And then regarding the second condition, it's a condition linked to the results of these companies. They must make a net tax profit of at least 1% of their turnover for 3 consecutive financial years. So in order to check whether the company is eligible in 2025, it will be necessary to take into account the net tax profit for the financial years 2022 to 2024. Focusing now on the new obligations for companies with more than 50 employees that have a union delegate. So in these companies, profit sharing bonus and performance-based bonus, so participation et intéressement, must take into account results of an exceptional nature that have been achieved in France. So here too, to be subject to this obligation, these companies must meet two conditions. One, they must have a workforce of at least 50 employees and be subject to the obligation to set up a profit sharing bonus, participation. So as I said earlier, this presupposes that this workforce is maintained for at least 5 consecutive years. And the second condition is that they must have one or more union delegates. So the eligible companies must include in their negotiation on profit sharing bonus and performance-based bonus a section relating both to the definition of the exceptional increase in their net tax profit and to the terms and conditions leading to the profit sharing with employees. That will be called the supplément. Supplément de participation et supplément d'intéressement in French. I propose now to go back a bit more in detail on the 4 existing profit sharing mechanisms, starting with the performance-based bonus, intéressement, once again. So this scheme is optional and it lasts from 1 to 5 years. And it aims to collectively involve employees in the company's results through the payment of a bonus in case of achievement of predefined collective objectives or performances necessarily based on criteria. So the criteria that can be chosen by the company are either financial, like the turnover or the operating income, but also it can be extra financial, so it will be more qualitative than quantitative, like attendance, delivery times, occupational accidents, and so on. And more now, we see that companies choose CSR and sustainable criteria. So this scheme is really, really flexible. Company can almost do whatever they want regarding the criteria of allocation. And it's particularly advantageous for companies with fewer than 250 employees, notably for tax reasons, because the sums allocated in this framework are exempt from specific tax that is called forfait social. But my colleagues will explain more in detail this point. And this scheme is really, really popular within small and medium companies. It has a lot of success on the paper, but actually only 11% of these companies have implemented such a scheme, which is a bit a shame because companies should enjoy this flexibility compared to other profit sharing schemes, and notably the profit sharing bonus participation, which is very strict. And it's the following scheme that I presenting. So the profit sharing bonus aims to collectively involve employees in the company's results by redistributing part of the profits made by the company during the financial year. As I said earlier, it is mandatory for companies with more than 50 employees. The overall share of profits to be redistributed to employees is called the Special Profit Sharing Reserve. So for each financial year, the amount of the Special Profit Sharing Reserve is calculated according to a formula established by law, exclusively linked to financial elements. This formula takes into account the company's net profit, equity, salaries, and added value. So contrary to the performance-based bonus, the intéressement, there is no flexibility here, especially regarding the calculation of the reserve. And this is the reason why, to ease the implementation of the profit-sharing bonus in small companies, that the new law provides for the possibility to derogate to the formula, to the legal formula, in a way that is less favorable for the employees. And I will let my colleagues present you the financial impact of these two schemes for the company.
Okay, so my colleague has explained up to now all the legal details about the profit sharing law. We will present now some information about how this will impact the payroll figures. First of all, we have presented here, prepared here, an example of a classic bonus paid by an employer to the employee. And we have considered some hypotheses. The employee will benefit from the base compulsory covers, I mean social security, pension, unemployment, etc. But we haven't considered any specific occupational insurance, for instance, and no supplemental health insurance for this calculation. Same thing, we haven't discussed about any reduction and exemption the employer might have on the salary. So you can see from the calculation that we present here that for a gross bonus amount of 1,000 euro, the employer will pay payroll contributions, and so is for the employee. And on top of that, the employee will also pay some personal income tax. The ratio we have calculated between the cost for the employer and the benefit for the employee, it is for a classic remuneration of 56%. On this screen, you can see how would be treated in the payroll and what the impact would be for intéressement and participation, so the performance-based bonus and profit-sharing bonus paid by the employer to the employee. You should know that this mechanism have a very specific payroll and tax treatment. This is why you can see that the ratio between the benefit for the employee and the cost for the employer is higher than on the previous situation. It goes from 75 to 90%.
So now the third mechanism is matching contribution to employee savings plan. Jeremy will speak to you about savings plan, so I won't be long on the topic. Just to say that the companies have now the possibility to top up employees' payments made into a company savings plan or a collective retirement savings plan up to a certain limit, amounting 60% of the annual social security saving, or in other cases, 8% of this saving. And I let Laura once again. Oh no, Theo, this time.
It's my turn.
Sorry.
No problem. So let's focus now on the financial aspects of matching contributions with two examples. This one, which relates to the company savings plans, and the next one will be related to the collective retirement savings plans. But you will see that it's quite the same financial aspects. So if you remember the slide that presented Laura a few minutes ago, a classic bonus is about 1.5 the total cost for the employer. If you pay 1,000 euro of bonus, it's almost 1,500 euros of total cost for the employer. And the impact for the employee is about 22% of social contributions before individual tax. So if we compare with matching contribution in the case of company savings plan, you can see that there are for less than 10% of social contributions, so which is advantageous for the employee compared to the classic 22% of social contributions. It's not subject to the personal income tax in the condition to be unavailable for 5 years. And about the employer cost, there is, so as Maëlys introduced a bit earlier in the presentation, the forfait social, which is an additional contribution of 20% for the employer, and which is still more advantageous than the classic bonus, which is about almost 50% of social contributions. So you can see that matching contributions is more advantageous both for the employee and the employer, with a ratio of cost compared to cost benefits, which is still more favorable with 75% compared to the 56% that Laura explained just a few minutes ago. And if we see in the case of collective retirement savings plans, it's the same situation here. Same advantages for the employee and the same advantages for the employer. It's still more favorable than a classic bonus. And I think it's back to Maëlys.
Yes. Yes, for the last profit sharing mechanisms, well, which is the value sharing bonus. So since 2022, actually, this bonus replaces what we call the purchase power bonus that was implemented in 2019. And this is now a long-term tool that companies can set up every year. And now it can be paid twice per year compared to once previously. It can be a one-off payment, and its amount is at the discretion of the employer. However, important, note that the amount is exempt of charges up to a certain limit, which is 3,000 euros per employee, and 60,000 euros in case there is a performance-based bonus or a voluntary profit share bonus implemented also in the company. Unlike other schemes, the value sharing bonus is very flexible in terms of allocation terms. It is possible, for instance, to individualize the criteria according to remuneration, classification, seniority. So this is quite advantageous for small companies and also for small wages, small salaries. And for your information, in France, it has a lot of success. 75% of the companies have implemented the value sharing bonus, and the average of the amount granted in this framework is approximately 760 euros. But to be implemented, the value sharing bonus must respect a specific formalism. It is set up by either a unilateral decision of the employer. He must also consult the staff representative if they exist in the company, or by a company or a group agreement that must be filed before the Labor Administration. And there are also mandatory mentions to include in the document that set up the value sharing bonus. The amount of the bonus must be provided, the date of assessment of the eligibility of employees, the potential remuneration ceiling, and other modulation criteria. Then there are also recommended mentions to provide, like the duration of the employer's commitment and the possibility and terms of allocation of the bonus to savings plan, which is a new possibility provided by the profit sharing law. And I let my colleagues tell you more about that. Oops.
It is important to note that the new profit sharing law gives the possibility to the companies to pay two PPV, two bonuses to the employees within the same calendar year. Besides, one PPV bonus can be split and paid in several times during the calendar year. This gives flexibility to pay the value sharing bonus all along the calendar year. The law also enables employees to have their PPV bonus on the company savings plan or collective retirement savings plans. They are allowed to put a part of the bonus or all of it on these plans. My colleague Maëlys already precised that the PPV must be set up and follow a certain formalism. We remind this. For the same item, the PPV bonus, we remind here that it is important to note that it is forbidden to pay this PPV bonus instead of paying the contractual remuneration of the employees. The employer is not allowed to replace the contractual remuneration by a value sharing bonus PPV. This one comes in addition on top of the usual remuneration with the employees if the employer decides to pay it. You can also see on this screen the 5 criteria that the employer can use to determine the calculation, the amount of the PPV bonus he is about to pay to the employees. They are, the criteria are remuneration, classification, contractual working time, duration of actual presence, including maternity, paternity leave, for instance, and the seniority with the company. We precise here the beneficiaries of the PPV, this bonus. All the employees are having an employment agreement, so the trainees are excluded. The temporary workers, depending on specific situation, are all beneficiary of this PPV bonus. Please note that corporate officers are not entitled unless they accumulate the corporate officer's mandate with an employment agreement. And in this situation, they would be entitled to the PPV for the employment agreement related activity only.
And well, now we're going to talk about the figures again. And please make me a favor. Don't be afraid of this table. Don't worry. There are many figures. It's always the case in France, I'm sure you know. And you will be able to raise your questions after the presentation. And even if you don't remember anything, everything, it's not a problem. We will be here afterwards to guide you. But to make it simple, or at least I'll try to, there has been a favorable exemption scheme implemented a few years ago, which has been extended to 2025 and 2026 for employees with fewer than employers with fewer than 50 employees, which implies that PPV bonuses paid in until December 2026 will apply this will benefit of this scheme. So if you have an employee with annual remuneration below the threshold of 64,866, which is the value in this year in 2025, it will evolve also next year. So an employee with below this threshold in a company of fewer than 50 employees will benefit of a tax exemption, social security and tax exemption, which gives the PPV bonus, the gross bonus will equals to the net bonus, so which is really interesting for employees. And in comparison, so this amount can be exempted of social contributions and tax until 3,000 euros per employee per year, and which can be extended to 6,000 euros per employee per year in condition if the employer has implemented already a voluntary performance-based bonus, intéressement, or for companies below 50 employees that are voluntarily implemented profit-sharing bonus called participation. So the exemption scheme is basically 3,000 euros per employee and can be extended to 6,000 euros per employee if there is an intéressement or voluntary participation scheme in place. So to compare, on the opposite, if we take the employers with above 50 employees and an employee with annual remuneration above the threshold of 64,000 euros, the PPV will be subject to social contributions for less than 10%. And will be subject to individual tax. So you can remember both opposites. So the first one for employers below 50 employees, annual remuneration below the threshold, PPV will be exempted of social contributions and tax, and the opposite, employer of above 50 employees and remuneration of the employee above the threshold. The PPV will be subject to social contributions of about 10% and will be subject to income tax. So you can see here it's the same example, but with detailed figures. In the case of, in the basic case of a company without performance-based bonus, or without voluntary profit-sharing bonus participation. So the exemption is a maximum 3,000 per employee per year. And you can see that the ratio cost benefits is really advantageous. It can go from 75% in the case of a company with above 250 employees to 100% for a company below 50 employees, and in the case of an employee having less than the threshold remuneration. So it can be really advantageous for companies below 50 employees, and for lowest remunerations, it can be really attractive to the employees. And if we compare with the last example, the same situation with a company having a performance-based bonus or a voluntary profit-sharing bonus participation, The same figures apply in the limitation of 6,000 euros per employee per year. So it can be very advantageous for employees to have in companies below 50 employees. For employees who are below the threshold of remuneration, they may be entitled up to 6,000 euros free of contributions and individual tax. So we are over for the presentation of the various mechanisms, and now we let Jeremy introduce savings plan in EMEA Assurance.
Thank you. So if we're trying to summarize what we said at this stage, we have four main profit sharing schemes, and most of them can be tax exempted through the vehicle of a savings plan. So you have to set up the bonus itself, and obviously everyone here in the webinar that you know of that are your contacts can help you to decide which scheme is the best for your company. It could be that you're above 50 employees and you need the participation, the profit sharing bonus. It could be performance-based bonus. It can be PPV and even matching contributions. As we saw, there are four different schemes. And so when we set up these schemes with a specific formalism, there is also the obvious possibility to set up a savings plan that comes with it, and that will be, you know, the vehicle for the tax exemptions, and will be here to basically allow the employees to make a choice in whether they want to save this money on a plan, or they want to withdraw it directly, but with the taxes that will apply, and so consider it slightly as it would be a regular salary, let's say. So the idea is that there are two main types of contributions. The employee contributions, so these are obviously the bonuses that the employee will get and then decide to save or not on these plans. And then the employer contribution, actually there is only one, and it's the matching contribution, meaning that if an employee decides to directly save money on the savings plan, the employer will then match these contribution by its own contribution. It doesn't have to be the exact same amount. It can be different. The threshold, Maëlys mentioned it, and it's mentioned here again. The idea is that it's kind of a reward and encouragement for the employees to be saving the money on the savings plans, and then allow the tax exemption. So it's rewarding the effort of trying to be saving on this specific type of plans. And they can be positioned, these bonuses and then these contributions, into two different type of plans. So one is called PEE, and one is called PERECOL. And the two different plans have a different approach to it. The PEE is mainly short or mid-term savings plans. So the money is locked for 5 years, and there are some, actually multiple different early withdrawal cases that we will see moving forward. And the PERECOL is different, is more dedicated to pension. So the money is locked until the age of retirement. And there are a bit less early withdrawal cases. Obviously, we want this money to last and to go up until the age of retirement. So it's less easy to withdraw early this money. Our role as broker is obviously going to be helping you with understanding what the best situation is, depending on the bonuses that you would like to provide, and also obviously guiding you towards what is the best type of savings plan that you could set up moving forward to get these tax exemptions for you as an employer and as well for the employee. So like the bonuses themselves, the savings plans are subject to a specific formality in order to set it up. The beneficiaries, as we mentioned, it's all employees actually. And the idea is that you will have to ideally do it on a collective approach to be setting up these types of plans. The best beneficial approach, I would say, to this collective way of doing it is to go to the Works Council and to have it ratified under the Works Council validation. This is probably the best way to do it, so that the employee representatives will be the one driving the discussion with you, and then moving forward, sending up these benefits. Then, if for whatever reason Works Council is not something you would like to move forward with, or actually you would like to also have the opinion of the employee, it can be voted by employees with 2/3 of the majority for the setup of these types of plans. You are able to do the PEE by itself or the PEE and the pérécole, meaning you can actually definitely do something that is just setting up a short or mid-term type of investment if you'd like. You don't have to do both at the same time. Then there is a specific subscription process with an administration, so basically documents to fill out. So here again, our role as broker will be to select with you the best possible provider. I'll be talking about this, and then to help you and support you during the subscription process. We try to get as digitalized as possible, so with less possible paperwork to do. And these formalities, they are actually quite flexible in the case that we decide to comply to a type of plan that is a multi-employer plan, and I'll be coming back to it a bit further on what it means to select a multi-employer type of savings plan. When the plan is set up, you have a welcome booklet usually that is given to employees, and we also support you with the communication. So that's obviously sharing the booklet, but also being able to maybe host a webinar to explain the advantages and the functions of the plan. So I did mention there are early withdrawal cases that will basically allow the employee to withdraw the money saved on the plan before the 5 years or before the age of retirement, depending on the plan that they have invested the money upon. So as you can see, actually, for the short-term PEE plan locked for 5 years, there are actually multiple different withdrawal cases that can be basically triggered anytime during the time the money is saved on the account. You could perceive a bonus, in June and actually have a withdrawal case in July and withdraw it right away, and then you will get the 5-year tax exemption reward right at the time that you do this early withdrawal case. So within these early withdrawal cases, some of them are very obvious. So for example, the acquisition of your main residence as an employee, getting married, the death of an employee itself or a spouse or a partner in a civil union. These are, I would say, very big life events that everybody is very familiar with, and that will allow this withdrawal case. And then some of them are a bit, let's say, different or very specific, and so I'm not going to comment on all of these right now. But as you can see, there are multiple ones, and what has been introduced lately in France is also reward on sustainable type of actions. And so within these early withdrawal cases has been added energy renovation work within the house or the apartment. This is an early withdrawal cases that didn't exist before, and as well as the purchase of a vehicle powered by electric or hydrogen type of power. And so that means that these early withdrawal cases, they are being updated, and they are triggered, let's say, also by the natural evolution of life. And so the government and then the providers are updating them as much as possible to match with the existing conditions of most people having money on these plans, which is extremely important. So this money is not just saved for 5 years or until the age of retirement. It's actually invested. So every individual opens an account. It's like a bank account, and the money is on this account, and then it's invested on certain funds, and so there are obvious multiple possibilities to be investing this money regularly, or actually very similar to what you can see on a supplemental pension plan, like a DC plan. This money fluctuates depending on what type of investment every employee is willing to make. Obviously, we'll be seeing that, but there is an obvious, a very stable, easy, and default path for everybody that doesn't want to be involved in managing these funds. And also, there is a very easy default setting for the employees that don't have any knowledge about investments, financial investments. So obviously, the idea is that the people that don't know anything about it will be able to have a default setting on the management of their money. And then the ones that have a bit more appetite into trying to make sure they lead and they manage their investments, they will have the possibility to do it very flexibly. But before talking about how the management of these funds and financial management of this is set up, it's important to mention what you have in this slide is that the government has decided to labelize some of the funds that exist on the market. So 5 official labels have been open to match that the government is basically getting involved in checking the quality of the funds that are available and on which you can put your money on. And so mainly these funds are here to cover sustainability and environmental approach to certain funds, so what we call green funds potentially. Then also solidarity and supportive, associative type of economy and promotion. It's very important for these funds that you don't always have to invest the money specifically on very strong and stable funds. You can also do green and sustainable funds if you like, and then you can also support the solidarity economy and associations through the application of these investments. And so these labels are here to help every consumer, every employee that benefit from a profit sharing bonus and a savings plan to invest this money potentially on sustainable and solidarity type of economies. So this is something that has been added and is quite new in France, and so the government decided to be involved in giving employees a better visibility and quality checks on these funds. And as I mentioned, so when you are naturally not willing to be involved in the management of your investments, mostly obviously for the ones that will last until the age of retirement on the Péricole, there is a default setting for the fund management that is called life cycle management, gestion pilotée in French. And so it allows basically the employee, depending mainly on his or age, to be investing properly the money without, let's say, too much risk. However, when you will start with this managed life cycle type investment, you will have to choose, and you can choose from 3 different types of profiles that will basically give and indicate to the provider's asset management team the appetite that you have depending on the risk that you want to take with these investments. And so you can be very conservative profile. You can have a very conservative profile that is going to be the less risky you can have. Then it's going to be a balanced profile. So that's a mix of different approach in the funds that will, basically allow some risk to it, depending on the age of the employee, depending how close you are to retirement. And then you have a bit more of an aggressive profile, let's say, that is a very risky one. And so basically the asset management team is going to invest this money taking risks, and then it's a win to lose situation where it can be a very good update and very good evolution of these investments, this money. Or on the other hand, that's the point of investing in certain markets. It can be a bit risky, so definitely we'll have to make sure that if you have an aggressive profile as an employee, you would like to make sure that they are very cautious in doing so, or that they really check what the management is doing. So really, again, to try and sum up, you have a bonus, you save it as an employee, you save it on a plan. It's either short-term or long-term. And then depending on that, you will be helping you as a broker to do the full setup as a company, communicating with the employees about it. And then as long as the employee has saved the money in this account, either it's locked for 5 years and with some early withdrawal cases, or you have the possibility to actually have a very long-term approach with the Péricole that is going to then be forcing the employee to make a choice on what to do with this money, how to manage it, how to invest it. So not only do we support you with the implementation of these plans, we also give you a very wide choice of providers. It's very important, obviously, that every company on the market should be able to have the best possible provider, the best possible service, the best possible digital services moving forward. So in this field, what we have done as a broker, and I mentioned that at the beginning, we try to have always a very comprehensive approach to every market, because we have a pretty wide range of clients, very small clients with international firm, with no establishment in France, or actually bigger French clients, let's say. What we see is that not all clients are equal, and that obviously everybody has some different appetite into certain services, certain approach. Some clients will want to have a very strong, viable, very premium insurer or bank to take care of these funds for them, maybe because they have multiple, a pretty big number of employees. And some other clients, they will want maybe the portal to be translated in English, or they will want fully digitalized services. So what we have done at MIA is make sure that we have the best partners on the market with their own type of advantages, let's say. And so they're not all the same. They all have their own little approach to profit sharing and to savings plans. So definitely our role is to benchmark these different insurers and providers, and to make sure that depending on your situation, depending on the bonus, depending on your employees, you will make the right choice in choosing the best possible partner to host these savings. And so, as you can see here, is the larger list of the partners that we use. Some of them we definitely use more than others. I would say very transparently. But definitely, this is the partners that we can be working with on this type of plan. And basically, behind every provider, there is some other entity called the account holder. And so that will be basically the entity responsible for the financial aspect of these plans. And so, for example, you will see that Eres, Epartim, and Amundi use Amundi as account holder. Abeille and Swiss Life, that are insurers, they will use Natixis, which is a different account holder. So basically what it is here to say is that when we check a provider, it's very important to check the digital services, the service to the employees, the communication, etc. And also who is the account holder in the back taking care of all the financials. And what we see is that we have, again, tried to have the most comprehensive approach to it, with having some of the biggest account holders you can have on the French market, to make 100% sure that we will always find a solution that will match your expectation as a company, whether it is, again, something that is a bit more flexible, or also something that is stronger and more viable with the big names like Amundi and Natixis, which are probably the two biggest account holders you have on the French market. So I will then talk about something important about this multi-employer plans. So when you set up a PE or Péricole, so the savings plans, you have the choice to do like a pool, a multi-employer type approach to it, and then they are called PEI and Péricole. The idea is to combine this setup with multiple different other firms. And so obviously the smaller you are and then the easiest it gets. This will basically erase the formalities of the setup. So you don't have to be drafting the agreement. You don't have to also, once this agreement is drafted, send it to the labor administration in France to basically officialize it. So if you join this multi-employer type plan, you will be able to have a direct setup and a direct implementation of these plans, and letting aside the formalities. The only requirement to join, actually not to join, but the only main, I would say, blocker compared to a standalone PE or Péricole plan is that when you join a multi-employer plan like this, the employees who are eligible to this bonus to be saved on these plans will have to have 3 months history in the company. And so these 3 months history in the company will be key, because then if they don't have 3 months history, they will not be able to use the savings plan to get the tax exemptions. So this is very important. We also support you, obviously, once the plans are set up, with the different actions that you can do online. And obviously, the idea is to have an HR portal that is as smooth as possible with the different actions that you can undertake on this. You can have multiple different employer representatives for this plan. Basically, you can have the payroll team. You can have even somebody, an external consultant if you want. You can have multiple HR people that can have access to the portal. So that's very important. And then you have obviously a direct contact, so a phone line or an email address to contact the provider. And then as broker, of course, we remain your main intermediary, so your main point of contact if you would like to ask any questions, do anything on the plan. And for the employee, obviously, I would say that comparing all these different providers that I mentioned, there are two main key aspects for the employees themselves to enhance, I would say, the user experience. Is the portal very user-friendly, and is potentially even the mobile app that they provide very user-friendly? Because every year, at least once a year, they will have to use the plan to make a choice whether they want to save the bonus that they got on the plan or to cash in this bonus directly on their payslip, on the salary. So basically, the user experience, at least to do this choice once a year, is going to be very important. And then for the people that decide to be managing very strongly their investments, it's going to be key that it's easy for them to choose which funds to make arbitrage. So in order to change potentially their profile or to change the funds they want to invest their money on, it needs to be quite smooth. It needs to be easy. It needs to be very user friendly. So this is where a choice of a provider is going to be key. And then there are also different type of approach from providers in terms of the number of funds that are provided. And so you will see that some insurers or providers on the market, they will have a very, very restrained low amount of funds, so that it's quite easy and straightforward for the employee. AXA, for example, has between 7 and 9 funds, which is very, very small amount of funds. Everybody are pretty able to understand how to basically invest. And then you have other providers on the market that will have 50, 100, and even sometimes 200, 300 different funds, and it gets a bit more complicated to understand. But depending on the employee situation and also the industry your company is, basically you can have employees very, very knowledgeable on these investments that will want to have multiple different funds. And so again, this is something that we discuss together when we do this setup. Do you want something easy, straightforward, not too many choices of funds, or do you want a very wide range of funds, or do you want something in between? So for the employee, it's going to be the two main aspects of the usage of the plan. How do I properly save my money when it comes in and I have to make a choice? and how do I invest this money? How do I maneuver around the different funds that are available to me? So here is just a quick look, and apologies because this is in French, but it's definitely just a screenshot of what you can see as an example on the Amundi website to get access to the basically the online portal for employees. So you have a landing page, then you have different tools and aspects that you can do. You can see your own savings. You can see every movement that you have made in the last months or years. You can change your contact. You can change your profile. You can access the details of your own plan with the different funds, the performance of the funds, and then check your contractual documents, get informed on the different investment that you're making. So this is something that will be very important when the employee is willing to have an appetite on these investments. And then certain providers, most of them, they will also provide a mobile app on top of the online portal where you can do most of the operations. So you can definitely do a voluntary payment by yourself. You can also follow all the different actions that you have conducted so far, and you can modify the different savings and investments that you've made. So ideally, these plans are also able to actually receive voluntary payments from the employees. So if you already perceived your salary and you would like to just use the plan itself because you haven't reached the threshold, you can make by yourself a voluntary payment just naturally on the website or on the app, and then the employee will just have to not forget to declare it to the tax system at the end of the year. But basically, this vehicle is here to welcome some bonuses from the employer and also allows some voluntary payments from the employees if they want to also contribute outside of the bonus that they can receive from the employer. And on the HR portal, obviously the main actions that you can undertake is view the different statistics on the employee savings, how this has been used, how the plan has been used, check the invoices and the contractual documents, and then make any possible action on potentially adding or terminating the employees, and then changing the contacts, employer representatives contacts that you would like to see on the plan. So this is pretty simple and straightforward. And then last but not least, when you decide to pay the bonus and you have the opportunity to pay the bonus, you can delegate the payment campaign to some of these providers. So some of these providers are able to do it on your behalf. The idea is that you don't have to make all the calculations and then have to talk to the employees directly to see what choice they want to make. You can delegate this to the provider that will basically contact the employee, tell them what's the right amount, have them to make a choice, send a reminder if they haven't made their choice in the right time, and then do the wire transfers on all the accounts on your behalf. So obviously, some companies will want to maybe keep their hands on this type of campaign. For the smaller companies that maybe don't have HR in France, it's going to be something very interesting because it allows a very easy way to do the campaign right, and then for every employee to be contacted directly by the provider and to do things as smoothly and as digitalized as possible. So this is, I'm mentioning, this is just a small extra cost that is paid to the provider to do that, but it's definitely something that you can do. And to finish, we will be talking about the cost of this type of plan. So usually the account holder is charging an annual fee just to administrate the plan, which is actually up to 300 euros. So it's definitely not a very big investment on the company side. Overall, you will see that this type of plan doesn't cost much. It's just the maintenance of an individual account for each employee that will be costing you 15 euro per employee per year, basically. So if you have 300 employees, you'll just do 15 euro multiplied by 300. So even if you have 300 employees, it's not such of a big fee compared to some other benefits on the market. So the cost is actually pretty small. And then there is the delegation of these campaign of paying the bonus. That is usually a package. It's a flat fee, or let's say 300 euros, and then 2 euro per employee. Again, if it's 300 employees, you'll multiply by 2 euros. In certain cases, mostly when you have a pretty strong support from our team, and then also you are, non-French speaker, and that we have to explain the overall approach in English and do all the proposals in English, etc. There is a setup fee that is usually to be paid, negotiated on case-by-case basis. So basically depends on your size, what your expectations are. It may apply. It's not all the time, but it may apply just for the full setup, a one-time fee, and then after this fee is paid, there is no other fee except the ones that you will see here. Mostly the account management fee of 15 euro per employee per year. Thank you very much. I guess it's now time for the questions in the chat. If you have any, feel free to reach out now. We'll wait to see if there are any questions.
I don't think there are.
Otherwise, I think feel free to contact us. You have our
Yes.
contact information on the screen now, and you'll get this document right after. I will be happy to help.
Maybe if you have some questions about the slides we've presented, if you want us to go back from a precise point of the slides, please feel free to request it in the chat. Okay.
Thank you, Christina.
Thank you.
Okay. So I think we're done here. Thank you very much, everyone, for your attention. And as we said earlier, if you have any question, we are at your disposal. If you want to implement also one of the schemes we presented, we are at your disposal, and the presentation will be sent to you in the coming days.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Have a nice day. Bye.
Bye.